In mounts of danger and of straits. You see that this is a hymn written by a man named Jonathan Franklin. And the hymn speaks on this topic, the providential care of God, especially as it relates to His elect people. And I want to show you what that theme looks like when we see it aligned with the framework of sovereign grace. I'm going to repeat the theme to you again. The theme of the hymn is this. It refers to the providential care of God, His providential care, especially as it relates to His elect people throughout the course of history. Now, let me give you an explanation of this theme. According to this framework, you notice the separation between eternity and time. They're two different realms. God is eternal in the blessedness of His being, whereas time is a continuum brought into existence by God. Also notice there is a separation between God, the Creator, and the creation. God is the Creator, having existence in Himself, whereas everything outside of Himself is created, having its existence in Him. When we speak of the providential care of God, it's important to keep these distinctions I've made for you in this framework clearly in mind. Allow me to show you why I say that. Watch this. I'll change the color pen. From eternity, before time was set in motion, God drew up a detailed blueprint for everything that He would make and everything He would do throughout the course of history. You see, my friends, that is why it is called history. It's His story, according to His blueprint, He brings to pass throughout the course of His story. Now, this blueprint is sometimes called the decree of God, which is nothing other than His master plan for the ages. Watch this. I'll change the color pen again. Everything God has decreed from eternity is that which He brings to pass throughout the course of history. And you see, when God brings His decree to pass throughout the course of history, this is what is called His providential care. Do you see? The decree of God is connected with eternity, whereas the providence of God is connected with time and with creation. Furthermore, let me add something else to this. Watch, I'll change the color pen again. It is the decree of God from eternity, which is the basis for the providential governance of God in time. Oh, my friends, I hope you can see these distinctions. For when we say that God is absolutely sovereign over heaven and earth, we mean that he sovereignly wills or ordains from eternity all things that come to pass in time, which is according to his decree. And we also refer to God's sovereign works, not just his will connected to his decree, but his works connected to his providence. For every providential act of God is based on the blueprint of his decree. Now, this doctrine of God's absolute predestination, we call it, yields great comfort and encouragement to all of us who are his elect people. For we know that God works all things together for good to those of us who love him, to those of us who are the called according to his purpose, because he works all things after the counsel of his own will or eternal decree. Well, let me refer you to a little incident to give you an example of the providential care of God. And it's this incident that we are given this particular hymn that I will soon read for you. That hymn is based on this little scriptural record. It's found in Genesis chapter 22. It's with reference to Abraham, who came to learn of God's providential care in a peculiar circumstance. God tested Abraham by commanding him to sacrifice his son Isaac as a burnt offering. Of course, as you can imagine, this was among the greatest trials of his life. Nevertheless, he arose early in the morning. He saddled his ass, he prepared all things necessary for the burnt offering, and he took with him his son to Mount Moriah. And after reaching the destination, Abraham built an altar, he laid the wood in order, he bound Isaac, and he laid his son upon the wood. Abraham then stretched out his arm with a knife in his hand, and just before he thrust the knife into his son, a voice was heard from heaven which said to Abraham, "Lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him. For now I know that thou fearest God, seeing thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me." You know, when Abraham lifted up his eyes, he saw a ram behind him whose horns were caught in a thicket. Abraham took that lamb, replacing his son with the animal, and offered that lamb in the stead of his son as a burnt offering to God. And with adoration and thanksgiving in his heart, recognizing the providential care of God in the midst of that heart-wrenching trial, do you know what Abraham called the name of that place? Jehovah-Jireh. For, we are told, in the mount of the Lord it shall be seen, or more simply stated, the Lord will provide. And that, my friends, is an instance of the providential care of God in the life of Abraham. And it is from this little incident that Jonathan Franklin coined the words of his hymn, which then brings us to that first stanza. In mounts of danger and of straits, my soul for his salvation waits. Jehovah-Jireh will appear and save me from my gloomy fear. Let us align these words with the framework of sovereign grace, and I believe we can more easily understand their meaning. Watch again. In mounts of danger, mounts. Abraham was on Mount Moriah when he offered his son a sacrifice to God. In mountains of danger and of straits. The word straits is a term used with reference to a situation characterized by a special degree of trouble or difficulty. We might say, for instance, I am in dire straits. So envision this on the framework of sovereign grace. Here are the mountains. And on this mountain is you, in a mountain of danger and of trouble. Your soul for God's salvation waits. Jehovah-Jireh will appear and save you from your gloomy fear. He, in the most distressing hour, displays the greatness of his power. In darkest nights, he makes a way and turns the gloomy shade to day. Jehovah-Jireh is his name. From age to age, he proves the same, for he's eternal and he changes not. He sees when I am sunk in grief, and quickly flies to my relief. The Lord Jehovah is my guide. He doth and will for me provide. And in the mount it shall be seen how kind and gracious he hath been. This word mount is capitalized. It's a reference to eternal glory or heaven. And it will be in that mount, in that heavenly kingdom, that we shall see how kind and gracious the triune Jehovah has been to us throughout the course of our lives. Oh, my dear friends, it's a beautiful hymn. A hymn that speaks of the special care of God for you. And I like to wish upon you the blessings of the Lord as you sing this hymn to the glory of God. May he edify your soul and bring encouragement and comfort. Until I meet you again for another hymn study, I like to wish upon you every blessing in the Lord.